Welcome, everybody, to the PHDJ podcast. My name is Mike.
And this is Joe Bunn.
What's going on, Joe?
Mic. What's up, brother? Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Ready to record another amazing
ready to go at it again, man. We have I have a main topic, but I have two kind of quickies to start with. First of all, last week we talked a little bit about automation and email, and you were starting to talk about your final email, the trapped under a rock email, and I kind of cut you off because I know we've talked about it on the podcast, and I'm always kind of aware of not being too redundant and go, but I also need to understand that not everybody
has heard all 91 episodes.
Right, exactly. So Nick Farrington, a loyal listener, as they say, from
and graduate.
Yeah, that's right. He reached out and he said, quick question. On the last podcast, you both mentioned the trapped under a rock follow-up as the last time you reach out. What exactly is that? So let me, as I did not do last week, let me give you a second to kind of explain that.
Yes, Mike. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. I'm just pulling up DJ Event Planner here. So
you don't have to read it word for word. I mean, you can. It is cleverly.
Yeah, no, it's pretty. It's pretty short as well. And I'm proud. The only thing I'm proud of is that I actually listened to Alan Berg, who pretty much crafted the email. But Mike and I were talking about following up with emails. I think I said our follow up is 3 days, then 7 days, and then 7 days more from the initial date of inquiry. And this is kind of the last one. It says, dear, and it populates their first name. Last call to see if you need a DJ for, and it populates the event date. Please reply with a number from 1 to 5. 1, you're interested and want to talk. 2, you're interested but haven't responded yet. 3, you're all set with a DJ and I should stop bothering you. 4, I should follow up in 2 months. Or 5, you're being chased by a wild animal and need assistance. We don't want to pester you, but we don't want to lose you either. Please let us know if you have any questions or if we can be of service. Sincerely, Joe Bunn. So that's the trapped under the rock.
I think it's great because it leaves the, if the relationship is over at that point and they have found somebody else or whatever, you're out of their price range, whatever, at least it leaves them with this guy's funny, he's personable, he's clever.
And people do usually give like a little chuckle, and they, and they will either give 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or they'll give, do you get a lot of 5s? Do you get people to just say, yeah, you know what, I like that. Be clever. I have had a few 5s thrown out, and I'll say something funny back. But most people just, they just say we've been busy. Life caught up to us, and we still are interested. So it has resurrected some people, put it that way.
Right. Right. All right. Before we get into and thank you, Nick, for the clarification and question. Before we get into the main topic, I want to take you to task. And you really surprised me last week with something that you did. Boy. You sent an email. I don't want to go too much into detail, but I'm joining you and a few DJs down in Florida next month. And you sent an email that required a response, and you sent it to a bunch of DJs, but you didn't blind copy. And so now I am being blown up by everyone just responding. What is up with your email etiquette, dude? Don't you understand blind copy?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I mean, that is a rookie mistake. And for everyone else listening to this,
I know what I did.
If you are sending to a bunch of people, and especially if you're requiring a response, but even if you're not requiring, some people are just going to respond to an email and just say, hey, got it, blah, blah, blah. And it's sloppy on your part, but then I'm also shocked by the people who are replying. You are the only one that needs a why are they replying all?
I don't know. I
don't get it. But
it's twofold. Let me defend myself first. I did mess up. I'm not going to lie. So basically, for those of you who want to know, when you send to a big group of people, you send it to yourself in the to category. I should have sent it to info@bundjcompany.com, and then in the BCC, the blind carbon copy field, that's where you put that big group separated. So
this way, if people hit reply all, it really is only going back to
what had happened was Brian B sent me a list. It wasn't in like an Excel spreadsheet. It was just like randomly copied. So I tried to copy and paste it into the BCC field several times. Several times. I did. Listen, but what happened was he had the name beside it. So I was sitting there having to delete that. Then I was trying to add in a comma to make them actually, populate in MacMail. And finally, I ended up having to put them in a spreadsheet myself. And then when I copied them finally that last time in a rush, I screwed the pooch.
So basically, you're throwing Brian Bonacisi, who is loyal listener and PhD PHDJ graduate. You're literally throwing him under the bus.
De facto.
And it didn't even take torture or anything else. So I think this was a good segue into our topic, because when Joe did that and I started getting responses that I didn't need to get, I was like, you mother. So today's main topic, Joe and I keep a little Word document or Google Doc, and I just called today curses. I received a call from a very good friend of mine in the industry who would prefer to remain nameless. So we're just going to call this JX. Okay. And this person said they were asking my advice about a dilemma. They had a client coming up who was insisting on playing non-edited versions of songs. Specifically,
was that a wedding?
Songs. It was a wedding.
Oh my God, even worse. Okay.
At a classy place with a wedding planner that they really like working with.
Oh man.
And specifically songs that would include the N-word and the F-word. So this person asked me how I would handle it. So let me ask you before I give my advice was. How would you handle something like that?
Man, this is tough. I don't know that I've been put in this situation yet, Mike.
I had not been put in this situation in advance. I was put into this situation once at an event, and I'll go into that in a second. But you tell me, how do you think you'd handle it?
Honestly, Mike, I think my first reaction would be to, and I know that this isn't my normal reaction because it's always, the client's always right, and I'm going to do this. I really think I would have an actual phone call or face-to-face, what do you call it, your planning meeting or advanced meeting, and be like, do we really need to do this? Or I think this is a bad idea, and here's why. There's older guests going to be there. There's going to be heavily Christian people there. There's going to be heavily conservative people there. Like, I just...
All right, so we're role-playing now. What if the client says, well, I know my guest list better than you. No one is going to be offended. Everyone at our wedding knows us and knows this is the type of music we like, so we'll be fine.
The only thing I can think at that point, I'm doing the thing that goes back to another episode we did where where you get that playlist that has a lot of Grateful Dead and Fish, and you open up the night by saying, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Katie and Chris's wedding. Katie and Chris have picked an extensive list of music for you guys tonight. Like we do that with that kind of list. I would think I would honestly put a disclaimer out there that, ladies and gentlemen, Katie and Chris have picked all the majority of the music tonight. And you're going to hear some bad language. So I'd make a joke, haha, put some cotton balls in your ears if you're easily offended. And here we go. Like there's no way I would start that show with Luke, pop that P and not put a disclaimer out there that this is not what I would normally do. And of course I would have warned all the vendors. Like I would have gone to the vendors, that planner, that banquet captain, whatever y'all call it, maitre d', and been like, listen, it's getting ready to get raw dog in here tonight, and I want you to know that the client explicitly, literally, figuratively told me to play these songs.
All right, so you and I pretty much agree, because that was my advice to this person. But they clearly had a higher moral compass than I did, because they said they refused. They just are not going to play that. So I think, from what I understand, this was a number of weeks ago that we had the first conversation. They had the conversation with the client, and the client hemmed and hawed a little bit, but eventually they understood. And then my advice to this DJ is, if you feel that strongly about it, you really should have a clause in your contract.
That's actually a great idea.
And they've added that now. Just a very simple. I think we were working on it the other day together, and not that I'm a lawyer, but I just thought this would cover their ass a little bit, ironically. But I just think it should be something like we only own and will only play radio-friendly edits at our events. And I think if you just add that one clause, then if it ever became an issue down the road where a client was like, well, look, this is what we want, and you've promised us all along you to do what we want, so we want to hear the N-word at our wedding, then you can point to that clause and say, yeah, right. we can't, you signed this contract, you agreed to this clause, so let's come up with a PG-13 version of a song. So like I said, I kind of agree with, I don't even think I had as much of a hesitation as you had. I mean, listen, the F word is not going to make your head explode.
No, right.
the N-word can be offensive to people, but it's also in a lot of songs. And, other than the radio, a lot of people listen to those songs, when you have a choice to download music or stream music, you have a choice to listen clean or explicit. A lot of people choose the explicit version because they know their head's not going to explode if they hear the N-word or the F-word or other things. So for a lot of people, it's just everyday language. And so I would definitely do the same disclaimer, and I've done that in the past. I can think of 2 instances in my life. I actually, years ago, had Closer as a wedding song.
Oh, Nine Inch Nails. Yeah, I want to F you like an animal. Right.
They wanted the unedited version.
Oh, wow.
And we had this conversation in advance. You realize you're going to offend some people. No. Everybody at our wedding knows us. And so, I introduced this as, ladies and gentlemen, or whatever bride and groom's first names. Obviously, I didn't say bride and groom. I use their first name. They have specifically chosen not only this song, but this version because they feel it perfectly captures their relationship. And we went into it. And, there were some older people looking at us like, what?
Yeah.
But everyone else got it, and it was them. And I wasn't offended by I want to F you like an animal, because listen, I own that song and I play the explicit version, and it doesn't bother me. And then I can also think of another time, and the word shit obviously I don't think is that big of a deal anymore. But the groom came up to me and asked me at a wedding, me for Kick Murphy's Kiss Me I'm Shit Faced.
Yeah.
I said, and this was at the wedding, and I said, I don't have an edited version of that. And he goes, no, I don't care. I want that version. So I said, well, I'm not going to do it unless your bride gives me the thumbs up. So he went over to her and talked to her, and I could see her looking, and she came up and she said, it's late in the night. Doesn't matter.
So
again, I introduced this, and I said, our groom wants to hear this, and he wants to hear the regular version, not edited, and everybody just sat along to it. So. Yeah. Maybe this person had a higher moral compass, and I give them credit for that. But I do think if it's something, if the listeners out there feel the way this DJ does, I'd encourage you to add the clause to your contract.
Yeah, I never even really thought about that, Mike. And ironically, I get probably twice a week, somebody will send an inquiry in and they'll say, it's critical that you play, radio-friendly music. And you would think...
I got one of those this morning for my wedding, either this weekend or next weekend. Right. And so, yes, you get people on the other end of the spectrum. And yes, and that one's easy to answer, right?
That's like, I've ironically, Mike, when I switched over my last Mac to my current MacBook and then switched everything from iTunes to Serato crates, honestly, I don't even think I hardly dragged anything explicit over. Things that I'd bought over the years. And even when I download stuff now, I always download the clean version. I
was caught off guard this past weekend. I download, I subscribe to Ultimix and Funky Mix, which I think is a great, by the way, they're not sponsors, but I think it's a great remix service. And they usually, when I download them, it says, because they'll give you multiple versions of some songs, dirty. And so I just filter dirty and I delete those. I don't even want them on my hard drive. But I got a request this week for the who does it? Snoop Dogg and Lil to Smile.
Smile, right.
I'm living my best life.
I like that song.
And I just played it. I got a request, and I beat it in, and I played it, and 30 seconds in, I hear the N-word.
Oh,
and I'm like, no, this isn't labeled dirty. I don't know what's happening. So I mixed right out of it. And yeah, I kind of got caught. So that goes to, and I know a lot of people are going to say, you should preview all your music. And yes, you're right. I should have.
Wow.
But I just, I assumed if it didn't say dirty, it would be clean. And it's so funny because that was the quick mix version, and the long mix version of that is clean. I listened to it. So I deleted the quick mix version and still have the longer mix. But but again, that's a great song.
Did you ever request for that, or did you just pull that?
Yeah, it was a guest request. The guest came up.
That's pretty bold pull.
It was already in hip hop, and so I was like, yeah, this is perfect. So I beat it in. But hadn't previewed it when I put it on hard drive, and so I got out
It'll
of it.
Get you. Yeah, something got me the other night like that, and I had to dump it real quick. Well, let me ask you this, Mike, while we're talking about language and so on and so forth. Can you ever recall an instance of any type of event you've hosted or emceed or DJ'd in which you've cursed on the mic?
Well, yes, I can think of, first of all, we used to, when we had the big warehouse, we a lot of Halloween parties for our staff. And at those, I would get pretty raunchy. And I would make
just staff only, though.
Staff only. And I would make a big deal, hey, I can kindly fucking curse tonight on the microphone. Right. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I would get pretty raw. And listen, you and I both, off the air, and I mean, even on the air, we let them slip, but off the air, I mean, you and I are pretty liberal with our language. So, yes, have I ever cursed on the microphone? I think only out of comedic effect. Like, for example, every once in a while, if the best man curses like a trooper in his toast, when I get the microphone back, I'll say, give a big round of applause, blah, blah, blah. And thank you for cursing, by the way, because this way, if I let a shit drop, I won't be the first one.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? That will usually get some kind of laugh like that, but that's simply for comedic effect. And they've already gotten the shock value. I mean, I'm talking about like if the best man says MF or something like that, then I figure shit is easy at that point. But I think that's the only time I'd ever. Have you?
I think.
Can you think of an event?
I can just think of like a damn or something like that, or just.
I don't know if that counts anymore.
Yeah, no, it barely counts. And then I've said some things where, before you even crack the unmute button, you should like give yourself a second before you say something. I've said inappropriate things, but I wasn't even trying to be inappropriate. Like I remember that this wedding. I remember where I was. This was way before Weezer ruined Africa by Toto, but years ago, and somebody came up to me like
everybody feels that way about that cover.
Dude, that's the worst cover.
It's a waste.
This guy comes up, or this girl comes up, and she's like, "Finish the Night with Toto by Africa." It was not on my list. I was like, and this was like, again, like nobody was really playing it back then. I was like, "Are you sure?" And she was like, "I promise this place is going to erupt." So I play it. Everybody's got their hands up in the air as if they're, literally in Africa. The night ends, and I remember the planners in my ear as the song is tailing out. She's like, send them out. We're doing sparklers. No, bubbles. And I go, all right, everybody. And I was just like super hyped because it had just worked, and it was such a good wedding. I was like, everybody, we're heading outside. They'll be right out. We're going to send them off the right way. We're doing bubbles. And then I like pause, and I go, blow them. Stupid. And the videographer and everybody just was like, what? Why did you say that? I was like, I don't know. I go, blow them. And everybody was just like, pause, and then, all right, cool, blow them. And they just took off. But anyway,
did you ever try the headset microphone thing?
No. I never
ever.
No.
Well, I guess you wouldn't because you're not you're not an interactive DJ.
There,
so there was a phase back like late 80s, probably early 90s where that became a thing in the industry, and I bought one. Yeah. I hated it. First of all, I don't think the sound quality is good.
No.
And you really have to have to crank it enough, but then you're going to get feedback. So I think I used it maybe 4 or 5 gigs before I finally got rid of it. Although if you are trying to do audience participation, this was probably the Macarena years when trying to beat the Macarena, having that. But one of the things I hate about that is that you would switch it on, and then you'd walk back. You do something, and then you'd walk back behind the system, and you'd tell your assistant something, and it's coming out over. You'd be like, cue up the shoot, and I don't think I ever cursed on the microphone, but I definitely said stuff on the microphone that I didn't, like instructions back behind the board that I didn't intend to come out, but because you just forget, and which is not the main reason I stopped using that thing, but I
saw a little clip from a college game over the weekend. I think it was a college game where the ref had left his mic on and said something. He wasn't cussing, but he was like, I don't even know if that was a first down or something like that. And it was, I think it was broadcast in the stadium.
Yeah, if you watch enough sports, I mean, they try to mic those fields well enough so that you can hear especially football, so you can hear the hits and the grunts and everything else. But obviously, the players let them, rip pretty generously. So, how about appointments? Do you is it ever appropriate, and do you find yourself ever cursing in an appointment?
I definitely have done that. I don't know that I've ever dropped an F-bomb. I've definitely dropped you just don't want a shitty DJ or something. But I'll preface that by saying in that conversation leading up to me saying that, there had been an exchange of dialogue in which they opened the field up first.
I'm exactly the same way. I would never curse in a client appointment until they do first.
Right.
And then if they do, and I'll even make a joke about it, like, oh, we're going there tonight, huh?
Right.
And you know what I mean? And then whatever they've said, I can, if they say shit, I can't say the F word, but if they say the F word, then and a lot of times, like, I'll say it back to them, like in quotes, like, you said it first, that kind of thing. So yeah, and I just think that lets the client know I'm on you. It's kind of goes back to the Alan Berg compliment again. Alan emphasizes in emails, respond the way they respond. Mm-hmm. If they write an email with 5 exclamation points, then you should respond in kind. If they're brief and don't even capitalize, then you can respond in kind. Well, it's the same type of thing in one-on-one conversation. If they're very formal and proper, then I'm going to be the same way. But if they come in going, yeah, we saw a shitty DJ last weekend and we don't want our effing wedding ruined that way, then I'm like, great, okay, we're going there. Yeah, we're
this is my kind of people.
Right. Right.
Well, let me ask you this, Mike. Hypothetically, if you're a parent, say your kids are whatever, my kids' age, like 10, 13, would you expose them to, because they're rap fans, man. They love Travis Scott and Drake and everybody else. Would you expose them to the unedited content, which is basically what they listen to on XM and Spotify, or would you try and shelter them?
It's such a hard question for me because I'm not a parent and I don't know. I think I probably would have been too casual if I had ever been a parent. I think I probably.
But you know what, man? That to me has worked for me. I've been super casual.
Yeah, I was going to say you bring your kids to hip hop concerts,
Dude,
and obviously they're not doing edited versions there.
No,
so they're hearing the N-word.
And Spotify rarely has clean versions, and that's what we're on a home plan where everybody's got their own account. We all listen to different stuff.
What's your oldest name?
Colin.
So do you find Colin drops curse words?
He doesn't, and that's why, because it's not so taboo, because he's been exposed to it his whole life. I've never. Now, I mean, listen, I'm not with him.
That doesn't make him disrespectful about it. It makes him understand there's a time and a place, and talking.
But I've never now I'm not with him at school all day, and he could be in there cussing like a sailor around his little friends and stuff. But I've never heard them playing a video game, or if they were fighting with each other, be like, "You little effer," you know what I mean? Or, "Oh shit, I missed that kill," or whatever. Like, I really think that exposing them to it helped them not want to be cussers.
What you're saying is reminding me, my parents used to let us have a sip of wine. Yeah. Every Sunday was like big dinner night. My mom made a big dinner, and my parents always opened a nice bottle of wine. I don't know, back then they didn't have a lot of money. It was but so I don't even remember my first sip of alcohol, because it was, and again, I'm talking about you get from 7, 8, 9 years old. But I think the good part about that is that like you said, it wasn't taboo to me. When I was 15, I wasn't like, I gotta have a drink. I gotta have a drink because I've never had one. I've heard about this. Yeah, I mean, you'd have and my dad, and then later I think my dad would let me take a sip of beer. So so maybe you're using the same philosophy. Yeah.
I mean, maybe. That story just reminded me of something that happened when I was a little boy. I remember being out. We had this sunroom at our original house my dad bought, and it was this tiny house. It had this sunroom, and all his buddies were out there, and they were smoking cigarettes. That was, everybody smoked inside. He smoked Camel filterless cigarettes till he was 40 years old. So I walked out there.
What happened at 40? He died?
No. At 40, he realized he wasn't going to make it to.
Right.
He just turned 75 a week ago. So
he never would have made 42 if he kept.
So I walk out there, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. I was probably 6, 7. I was like, yeah, cool, cigarettes. And I go, can I try it? He goes, yeah, sure. He handed me the cigarette. I took it, put it in my mouth, and I blew out. And the ash turned, or the cherry or whatever you call it, turned red. I was like, oh shit, I'm smoking. He was like, no. Suck in, Joe, suck in. I sucked in and threw up all over that room with all those men laughing at me. And I never, ever tried another cigarette. Never.
Wow. Yeah.
It was one of my worst / best memories.
I think I've told you before. I worked at the local church growing up. That was my first job.
Yeah.
And there was an old retired Monsignor there who smoked, and he was probably in his late 70s.
What is that?
Monsignor is like a
custodian.
No. That's a priest. That's better than a priest. Monsignor is a bigger title. But he smoked Camel filterless, and I was a teenager. I smoked as a teenager. I thought I was a punk ass, and I'll never forget. He came in one day into the office and he said, "Hey, can you go get me some Camels?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So he gives me a couple bucks to go down to the store, and he goes, "Can I have one of yours while you go?" So I give him one of my Marlboro Lights, and he snaps off that is the Monsignor. He snaps off the filter and he goes, "Pussy." And I walked out. I go, "Yeah, that's me." This guy, and I remember when this guy passed away, we had to clean up his room, and we repainted his room, and above the door jamb, there was like a maple syrup. I didn't understand it, and I'm working with my boss, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that's nicotine."
Yeah.
That guy smoked in that room for so many years that the nicotine. Yeah, I mean, it was literally. I thought somebody had put maple syrup, the door jamb on the top of the door jamb, but it was nicotine. Oh, that was, gross, and that wasn't enough to make me quit. I didn't quit till I moved out to Jersey.
Damn, my dad did the same thing to one of my friends. They came over partying one night. Yep, and he spit it in his face and called him a pussy.
Right. Well, listen, if you're gonna, what is it? Go big or go home.
Oh man,
if you're gonna smoke. Forget the filter. Actually, I've read sometimes some people think the filter is worse because the filter heats up and whatever's in it might be whatever.
It's a bad habit, people. We've gone down the rabbit hole.
And by the way, we made a joke last week about who cares the people who don't like the personal stuff. Somebody said for April Fools we should just do an entire episode where we just talk and we keep saying that we're going to get to the main topic, but then we don't, and then at 30 minutes we go, "Oh, sorry, we're gonna have to cut this off." We never did. So maybe stay tuned for that, April. So
cool.
Any last words on cursing?
No more cursing from me today.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
It's only 8:52. There's going to be a lot more.
There's a lot.
Well, Mike, tell them a little bit more about Vegas in the last couple of minutes.
Man, March is coming together, isn't it? I keep seeing some exciting things about Mobile Beat. The speaker panel, I think, is just about set, and it looks exciting. It looks awesome. So if you haven't made your plans yet, check out mobilebeat.com and look at the itinerary for their show. And then, of course, go to PHDJworkshop.com and look at all the great topics we're going to be covering in our day and a half. Watch the video from our graduates, the testimonial video, and please join us because it's going to be a fantastic week.
Sign up, guys, PHDJworkshop.com. And as always, thank y'all for listening.
Thank you.
Peace.